Multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
You're watching TBPN. Today is Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. We are live from the TBPN Ultradome, the Temple of Technology, the Fortress of Finance, the capital of capital. Yesterday was Anthropic Claude 4.5 day. We had a lot of fun talking to Sholto about that. You should go check it out. We wrote a little write-up. I collaborated with Brandon and Tyler to kind of give our thoughts on the state of the AI race with regard to OpenAI and Anthropic and what makes Anthropic special. The things that stuck out to me, I mean, the thing that went viral was just the fact that apparently Dario goes around Slack and writes essays every single day. And everyone is like, give me the essays, turn it into a book. Paging Stripe Press. We got to get Stripe Press to turn it into a book.
Yeah, but I was also thinking of a potentially a risk vector for them of being like the Dario files, you know, a disgruntled employee that saves
leaks
them all
everything
and then leaks them all.
I imagine
because even when he's on mic, he's known to say some things he at times
people. I feel like people take him out of context a lot. Like he will say
he's kind of the final boss.
If this doesn't go well, we could lose 50% of white collar work or entry level white collar work, and people will be like, Anthropic's stated mission is to destroy jobs.
Take your father's job.
Yeah, it's rough, but ramp. Time is money. Save both. Easy to use corporate cards, bill payments, accounting, and a whole lot more all in one place. Timeline was in turmoil over the weekend and yesterday. We covered a little bit about the Nucleus dust up on the timeline. Cremieux will be coming on the show at 11:45. And then
fast followed.
Kian, the CEO of Nucleus, will be coming on the show at noon. So we will kind of have both sides. Then we have Joe Weisenthal joining from Bloomberg. And then we have, who else do we have today?
Kratsios.
Kratsios is coming on to break down Project Genesis, which we're very excited about. Anyway, let's run through what other news stories were at the top of the timeline while we pulled those up. Let me tell you about Restream, one live stream, 30 plus destinations. If you want to multi-stream, go to restream.com. Oh yes, the biggest news in tech, in AI, is that the Ilya Sutskever, Dwarkesh Patel podcast has dropped. Do we have
hit the timeline?
Do we have the opening clip? Because the opening clip is iconic. It's very funny. It's a bit of a hot mic moment for Ilya, and I think we should pull it up and play it because it has a fascinating just insight into. It feels very like, oh, this is the real Ilya. He's not even thinking that he's on camera, and he gives his real feelings. So let's play this from the very start.
Crazy.
Listen
that all of this is real. Yeah? Meaning what?
Don't you think so?
Meaning what?
Like all this AI stuff and all
Like
this
it's
Bay
actually
Area, yeah, that it's happened. Like, isn't it straight out of science fiction?
Yeah. Another thing that's crazy is like how normal the slow takeoff feels. The idea that we'd be investing 1% of GDP
It's
in
like,
AI
hasn't even
like,
set
I
up
feel
the
like it
cameras yet,
felt
and they're
like a
already
bigger
talking.
deal. You know, where right now it just feels like
And we get used to things pretty fast, turns out, yeah. But also it's kind of like it's abstract, like, what does it mean? What it means is that you see it in the news,
yeah,
that such and such company announced such and such dollar amount.
right,
That's all you see.
right.
It's not really felt in any other way so far.
Yeah. Should we actually begin here? I think this is an interesting discussion.
Sure.
It's
think
like
your
one of the
point
greatest
about,
podcast
well,
intros
from the
of all
average person's
time.
point of view,
So good,
really good.
so good.
Nothing is
Anyway,
that
we're not
different.
going to watch the whole show.
I think that's going to be a new meta.
Yes, yes. I mean, you can't fake that. It's amazing. Also, it's just funny because it's effectively getting caught on a hot mic. But I was joking. I was like, of all the things that you could say on the hot mic before you sit down, oh, okay, we're actually recording. His is just completely reaffirming everything we know about Ilya Sutskever. Like, it's just completely the same. Like, okay, he is a true believer. It's not like he was sitting down and being like Nurkash, like, we got to go on my private plane. I just sold so much secondary. It's crazy what's going on with this stuff. Like, if people really think this AI thing's going to pan out, I'm making billions of dollars. I'm cashing out. I don't believe any of this stuff is real. No, he wasn't caught on a hot mic like that. His hot mic moment is like, wow, it's exactly like science fiction. Everything is
all real.
True. It's all real. Yeah, which is just iconic. Well, you can go and listen to that in the Dwarkesh Patel RSS feed and on the YouTube channel and on X. He put the full thing up. It's 95 minutes long. Tyler, did you have any other takeaways from your speed run? You're listening to it at 5x, right?
Well, on X you can only do up to 2x. So I was on that. So I still have like 10 minutes left.
Okay.
But yeah, a bunch of good stuff in here.
Does he pop the scaling bubble? Does he give a bearish take about
Is
AI
it over?
at any point? While you're thinking about that, let me tell you about Gemini 3 Pro, Google's most intelligent model yet. State-of-the-art reasoning, next-level vibe coding, and deep multimodal understanding. Continue.
So I wouldn't say he's like anti-scaling, but he does kind of give this interesting take, which he basically says that like now AI companies like there's too few ideas for the amount of companies and for the scale that we're at. Where he basically like you can think of AI progress as being in these kind of distinct ages, right? So he says 2012 to 2020 was like the age of research, where you're trying all these like different ideas, and the scale of things is very small, right? Like to train the original AlexNet was like 2 GPUs. To do the original transformer was like 8, maybe 64, but like very small amount of GPUs. And then once we kind of figured out that transformers work, we entered this age of scaling, and that's basically from 2020 to 2025. And now we're basically at this point where like, yes, you can keep scaling, and models will get better. But even if you scale 100x, like, are we really going to get super intelligence? It'll get better on the benchmarks, and they'll become more useful. But it's not like this. He doesn't think that just raw scaling alone is basically what's going to bring us there. I mean, this has been echoed by a lot of people. Right? This was, I think, Karpathy said this, where we still need a couple different kind of paradigms for this to work. And even this is even kind of what Sholto said yesterday, which is like pre-training. It's not dead, but it's like the reason that Opus 4.5 was better is not just because they scaled pre-training. It's scaling generally. But even then, like the scaling has gone from pre-training and now it's RL. And so we need to find another paradigm. And the way you do that is just doing like research. And so he talks about SSI as basically being this, like all they do is research.
Return to research.
Yeah, it's small kind of training runs. Even though they only raised $3 billion, which is like small compared to other to other research institutions. The fact that they're basically putting it all on these kind of, I mean, I don't know if they're moonshots, but they're these small training runs where they're doing experiments. And then they're going to scale that up eventually. But they're not just basically trying to win the AI race by just scaling up and doing the same thing as everyone else.
They're trying to find a new, a way to actually bend the scaling curve, find a new scaling law, or find a new technology that like they can scale against. I was thinking about Ilya's talk at NeurIPS last year. He pulls up this chart of the relationship between the mammal's mass and the brain volume, and it's a pretty linear graph. And so like the elephant is a lot bigger than the mouse, and so it has a proportionally larger brain to its body volume. And it's this perfect linear curve. I should just try and figure it out if I can maybe text it in. I took a picture of it because it's a very cool chart. Here it is. Where do I send this? The timeline? Let me see.
Ship it.
Share. Let me see. Timeline. Sorry. Boom. So basically the mammals have this like very clear linear trend, but then the non-human primates are a little bit higher up on the chart, and they're just doing a little bit better. But then hominids, the actual humans, have there's a very distinctly different curve. And so there's this interesting, like, it was making me think like maybe that's what we're supposed to see when we think about, this. It's like when we say like straight lines on log graphs, when we say we are seeing scaling happen with the current architectures, which line are we scaling against? Are we actually scaling on the human curve, or are we waiting for divergence from that current scaling law?
He has this good quote where scaling has taken all the air out of the room, right? Where like basically, like we have more than enough compute to try these like different ideas. But they're just all going straight into training the next big model using the next paradigm. And maybe it's slightly different, right? You have a different way of doing RL or whatever. But it's still fundamentally the same thing, right? And he talks about maybe continual learning is really the better approach, right? We've been in this era of like having a pre-training thing for so long that we think of like AI as like you train this thing and then you release it and it's like done. And RL is like a little bit different now because there's this idea of post-training and you can kind of integrate different things.
I also thought the interesting thing was with pre-training, you use the whole internet, so you don't have to decide anything. You're just applying this algorithm to just all the data, all the compute, and there's no decisions. But then with RL, you have to decide, okay, we're putting in these math equations, and we're maybe not putting in something else because we're actually creating the data, and it's not just this.
He says like
thing.
This is maybe why we see these kind of like models that are super well, they do super well in evals, but not so much.
Some of the overfitting
and the reason is because the data that we choose is not the correct data. Because researchers are basically being reward hacked maybe into like just solving for benchmarks.
It's interesting. It's interesting to hear this. Like the conclusion is we need another breakthrough, and then simultaneously consensus be like. But like we're definitely going to get that breakthrough in like the next decade. It's like it's hard. Like these
I feel like
it's hard to predict.
I feel like it echoes a lot of even what Mike Knoop has been saying. Right? We need new ideas. He's
totally.
been saying this for months. But
it's way harder to predict the rate at which breakthroughs will arrive, as opposed to like you can actually chart out the formation of capital, the time it takes to build a data center, how long it takes to manufacture a bunch of GPUs, rack them, run the training run. Like that's much more predictable than like human came up with new algorithm. Like that's sort of random.
Yeah, and he brings this up as the reason why you see companies doing this, because it's just if you're raising money, it's so much easier to justify the raise by saying, we're going to buy this data center, we're going to do this training run, it's going to cost exactly this much.
It's
going to monetize this way.
And then the model will be this good, and then we can use it to monetize this way. Where if you're just saying like, we're just going to pay a bunch of like really smart researchers to do a bunch of research, and then they'll figure something out. That like you can't really.
In some ways it feels like SSI is set up for like somewhat of a mini AI winter, or like at least riding the hype cycle down. Because it doesn't sound like he's sitting there being like, we raised $3 billion and we're spending it in the next 12 months. It's like
2.9 was that.
No.
No. That's the point. It's not. It's like equity. It's just sitting there. It's like he clearly pull back.
I'm going to give each researcher or all these different teams like a shots on goal.
No, I love it.
We're going to keep taking those shots until obviously he'd be able to raise like another $10 billion whenever he wants, especially if he has like a key breakthrough insight and they can be first to scale that.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about Cognition. They make Devin, the AI software engineer, crush your backlog with your personal AI engineering team. Nvidia has posted.
They hit the timeline.
They hit the timeline. Break this down for me, Jordy.
They said, we're delighted by Google's success. They've made great advances in AI, and we continue to supply to Google. Nvidia is a generation ahead of the industry. It's the only platform that runs every AI model and does it everywhere computing is done. Nvidia offers greater performance,
versatility, and
fungibility than ASICs, which are designed for specific AI frameworks or functions.
That is a crazy thing to post.
Crazy thing to post.
Sometimes we get stuff
says,
from Nvidia
I don't know, boys, but having the largest company in the world sending tweets to defend their main product is not very reassuring.
It's just an odd... I feel like this would be so much better delivered. I actually don't have that much of a problem with the actual text here. I just think this should be delivered by Jensen with some nuance in a conversational setting. It just hits a lot different when this is in at exactly 9 a.m., like clearly scheduled, clearly typed out in a document. You know, it's like it feels like a press release, which is just an odd thing when it should be. You know, this should be an answer to a question which Bobby Cosmic in the chat was saying, like, oh, the mainstream media is just now picking up on the Gemini 3 story. And there's articles in the Wall Street Journal and other places saying, like, oh, maybe Google's back. Like, you know, buy Google. Like, it's very exciting. And so NVIDIA feels the need to respond to that. But it's a lot different when it's actually a response instead of just like we're putting out a press release. Like, who knows why? Like, as opposed to like Jensen saying like, well, since you asked, you know, talk show host or news anchor or whoever he's podcast host, whoever he's talking to, Dwarkash, you know, whoever he's talking to, maybe us. We'd love to have him. I can ask him that question. He can defend this here.
Yeah. Well, the timing seems important because they are coming under a huge amount of pressure right now. There was an article in Barron's this morning by Tae Kim. The headline is not what NVIDIA's comms teams would have liked it to be. The headline is, NVIDIA says it's not Enron in private memo refuting accounting questions.
That's a crazy thing to say. Of course, it's not Enron, but
let me get into the coverage. So Tay says a series of prominent stock sales and allegations of accounting irregularities have put NVIDIA in the middle of a debate about the value of artificial intelligence and its related stocks. Now NVIDIA is pushing back in a private 7-page memo sent by NVIDIA's investor relations team to Wall Street analysts over the weekend. The chipmaker directly addressed a dozen claims made by skeptical investors. NVIDIA's memo, which includes fonts in the company's trademark green color, begins by addressing a social media post from Michael Burry last week, which criticized the company for stock-based comp, dilution, and stock buybacks. Burry's bet against subprime mortgages before the 2008 financial crisis was depicted in the movie The Big Short, of course. NVIDIA repurchased 91 billion shares since 2018, not 112 billion. Mr. Burry appears to have incorrectly included RSUs. RSU taxes, employee equity grants should not be conflated with the performance of the repurchase program. NVIDIA said in the memo, employees benefiting from a rising share price does not indicate the original equity grants were excessive at the time of issuance. That makes sense. Barron's reviewed the memo, which initially appeared in social media posts over the weekend, and confirmed its authenticity. Burry told Barron's he disagrees with NVIDIA's response and stands by his analysis. He said he would discuss the topic of the company's stock-based comp in more details. Burry is, of course, now over on Substack. He's charging $380 a year. And if you are a perma bear, I can't. This is like Christmas coming early. NVIDIA didn't respond to Barron's for a request for comment, but they also responded to claims that the current situation is analogous to historical accounting frauds, Enron, WorldCom, and Lucent, that featured vendor financing and SPVs. NVIDIA does not resemble historical accounting frauds because NVIDIA's underlying business is economically sound. Our reporting is complete and transparent, and we care about our reputation for integrity. Unlike Enron, NVIDIA does not use special purpose entities to hide debt or inflate revenue.
There's no mark to market. It's like there's 25 examples of how this is not the same. I don't even know why they're.
NVIDIA also addressed allegation that its customers, large technology companies, aren't properly accounting for the economic value of NVIDIA hardware. Some of the companies we've talked about this, use a 6-year depreciation schedule for GPUs. Burry said he believes the useful lives of the chips are shorter than 6 years, meaning NVIDIA's customers are inflating profits by spreading out deep depreciation costs over a long period. NVIDIA's customers depreciate GPUs over 4 to 6 years based on real-world longevity and utilization patterns. Older GPUs, such as A100s, continue to run at high utilization and generate strong contribution margins, retaining meaningful economic value well beyond the 2 to 3 years claimed by some commentators. So again, under fire on the TPU front and from the Michael Burry camp, but again, I think their answers are totally valid. Matt over on X said had a post here. He said the TPUs equal bad for NVIDIA take is up there with the dumbest, maybe worse than DeepSeek, as it completely misses what actually happened in the last 6 weeks. And I will remember who is who in the zoo. My view: 1, demand for AI is bananas. No one can meet demand. Everyone is spending more. Google said just yesterday they have to double capacity every 6 months to keep up. 2, scaling laws are intact. He's referencing Gemini 3. The flywheel is about to speed up. Somehow the mid-curve crew thinks this is zero-sum competition. None of this suggests that. If you think the race is hot now, wait until you see what comes out of large coherent Blackwell clusters. All the magic from the, quote, God machines is pretty much still Hopper-based. Lastly, a quick GPU, TPU lesson: the cost and performance specs on the box aren't what you get in real life. And Google is going to get a fat margin too, doubled up. What matters is system-level effective tokens to watt to dollars and TCO. NVIDIA GPUs have higher FMU because they're already embedded in workflows / the ecosystem is massive. By the way, this is a good test. If you have an opinion on this topic, but you have to look up FMU, then perhaps curate better source.
MFU.
What?
MFU. MFU.
What I said
FMU. Sorry.
Sorry. The above effective token watt gap also likely widens with Rubin. Add in that Jensen can actually deliver volume in a tight market, plus future flexibility, multi-cloud capable, programmable for paradigm shifts, and he'll sell every GPU he makes for years. Google will too, since everyone wants a second supplier, and TPU is a fantastic chip. But this is as far from either or as it gets. The one benefit of this confusion is that it is likely to give Google a brief stint as the world heavyweight champion, the most valuable company. I would guess the midwits put the strap on them in less than 2 weeks. So he
put the strap on them. What does that mean? Just like pile in? Is he saying just like? So he is he. It seems like he's predicting that people will overplay the Nvidia bear take and overplay the Google opportunity, and that will result in Google becoming the most valuable company in the world. And he uses the phrase "put the strap on them" in less than 2 weeks. Interesting post.
In other news, David Sachs has hit the timeline. He says, according to today's Wall Street Journal, AI-related investment accounts for half of GDP growth. A reversal would risk recession. We can't afford to go backwards. We will. The article is how the U.S. economy became hooked on AI spending, and we will be chatting with Kratsios in about an hour on this very topic. So we can get into a little bit.
Well, before we move on, let me tell you about ADIO, AI native CRM. ADIO builds, scales, and grows your company to the next level. Do you want to read through?
Fact sheet from the White House. President Donald J. Trump unveils the Genesis mission to accelerate AI for scientific discovery. Today, and this is yesterday, Trump signed an executive order launching the Genesis mission, a new national effort to use artificial intelligence to transform how scientific research is conducted and accelerate the speed of scientific discovery. The Genesis mission charges the Secretary of Energy with leveraging our national laboratories to unite America's brightest minds, most powerful computers, and vast scientific data into one cooperative system for research. The order directs the Department of Energy to create a closed-loop AI experimentation platform that integrates our nation's world-class supercomputers and unique datasets to generate scientific foundation models and power robotic laboratories. The order instructs the Assistant to the President for Science and Technology to coordinate the national initiative and integration of data and infrastructure from across the federal government. The Secretary of Energy, APST, and the Special Advisor for AI and Crypto will collaborate with academia and private sector innovators to support and enhance the Genesis mission. Priority areas of focus include the greatest scientific challenges of our time that can dramatically improve our nation's national, economic, and health security, including biotechnology, critical minerals, nuclear fission and fusion energy, space exploration, quantum information science, and semiconductors and microelectronics. Next, harnessing AI for our national security and economic development. With the Genesis mission, the Trump administration intends to dramatically expand the productivity and impact of federal research and development within a decade. There's one more note here on strengthening America's AI dominance. Trump continues to prioritize America's global dominance in AI to usher in a new golden age of human flourishing, economic competitiveness, and national security. And so we will get into more of this with Kratsios.
Yeah, I'm very interested to hear how the public-private partnership actually works here. There was a time when basically every cool technology was coming out of DARPA, coming out of the U.S. government. The U.S. government landed on the moon, and since then, I think a lot of people in technology have lost faith in the U.S. government overseeing the development of technology, even academia. I mean, people think AGI will emerge from a private C corp. Like that's where people believe that the best work will be done with, give Ilya Sutskever, give the best scientist $3 billion, let him go cook. Like that's the thesis currently in tech. This feels like somewhat of a rejection of that in some ways. There's obviously lots of different places where having AI resources, having science and technology resources within the government make a ton of sense. But it'll be interesting to see where are the interfacing points between the two categories, the public and private sector, because by default, I think most people in our audience in technology would say, hey, let's leave the space travel and the AI research to the private sector, and this is potentially a different direction, potentially just very synergistic. So it'll be interesting to see where it breaks. Well, should we run through the Astral Codex 10 piece on trait-based embryo selection to tee up our discussion with Cremieux and Kian from Nucleus?
Let's do it.
And go through that. So this is from Scott Alexander in Astral Codex 10. He says, suddenly trait-based embryo selection. When a couple uses so in 2021, Genomic Prediction announced the first polygenically selected baby. When a couple uses IVF, they may get as many as 10 embryos. If they want one child, which one do they implant? In the early days, doctors would just eyeball them and choose whichever looked the healthiest. Later, they started testing for some of the most severe and easiest to detect genetic disorders like Down syndrome and cystic fibrosis. The final step was polygenic selection, genotyping each embryo and implanting the one with the best genes overall. Best in what sense? Genomic Prediction claimed the ability to forecast health outcomes from diabetes to schizophrenia. For example, although the average person has a 30% chance of getting type 2 diabetes, if you genetically test 5 embryos and select the one with the lowest predicted risk, they'll only have a 20% chance. So you get a 10% bump there. That's nice. Since you're taking the healthiest of many embryos, you should expect a child conceived via this method to be significantly healthier than one born naturally. Polygenic selection straddles the line between disease prevention and human enhancement. In 2023, Orchid Health, founded by Noor, who we've had on the show, entered the field. Unlike Genomic Prediction, which tested only the most important genetic variants, Orchid offers whole genome sequencing, which can detect the de novo mutations involved in autism, developmental disorders, and certain other genetic diseases. Critics accuse GP and Orchid of offering designer babies, but this is only true in the weakest sense. Customers couldn't design a baby for anything other than slightly lower risk of genetic disease. You're basically just selecting out of what you already got.
Yep.
They're not editing the genes. They're merely sequencing them and then allowing you to select. These companies refused to offer selection on traits, the industry term for the really controversial stuff like height, IQ, or eye color. Still, these were trivial extensions of their technology, and everyone knew it was just a matter of time before someone took the plunge. Last month, a startup called Nucleus took the plunge. They had previously offered 23andMe-style genetic tests for adults. Now they announced a partnership with Genomic Prediction, focusing on embryos. Although GP would continue to only test for health outcomes, you could forward the raw data from GP to Nucleus, and Nucleus would predict extra traits, including height, BMI, eye color, hair color, ADHD, IQ, and even-handedness.
And it's worth noting that Nucleus is now being sued by Genomic Prediction.
Even though they have this partnership.
I'm assuming the partnership is no longer.
Yeah.
Well, we can ask.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's no longer because one of GP's co-founders left the company
to join Nucleus. Interesting.
And allegedly turned off all the security cameras.
That's metaphor? Or is that actually?
The lawsuit alleges that he turned off all the security cameras on his laptop.
That's not a metaphor for sharing a Google Drive of PDFs. You literally mean
it's his last day at work.
Okay.
And he was allegedly
turned up. Okay, so he
up.
turns off the cameras allegedly, and the implication is that maybe he was rummaging around, literally taking documents or something like that. That's at least what the timeline is.
What the lawsuit alleged.
Okay, wow,
yeah.
That's wild. I did not know that was a literal accusation.
And then another part of it, apparently, Nucleus. People at Nucleus were emailing the former co-founder at his old email address evidence of them violating the agreement that they had. So, anyways, it's very, 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 very messy. We can ask.
There's 4 or 5 companies involved in this,
and all of them are controversial because this is the most controversial. Probably category that you can be in. Yeah,
it's certainly up there.
Health is already one of the most controversial topics.
Yeah, everyone has an opinion on
health influencer they've gotten into various debacles.
Yeah. And also there's just it's so easy to throw. I mean, in the same way that people are throwing Enron at Nvidia, it's so easy to throw Theranos at any biotech company that's not, that's accused of anything. Yeah. And also biotech, it's pretty hard to understand the underlying science. It's not as popular as does the website work? Does the business make money? What's the cash flow like? It's way more complicated, and so it does attract even more attention. So one of the other companies in the space is Heracyte, and Astral Codex 10 continues here. They enter the space with the most impressive disease risk scores yet, an IQ predictor worth 6 to 9 extra points, and a series of challenges to competitors whom they call out for insufficient scientific rigor. Their most scathing attack is on Nucleus itself, accusing its predictions of being misleading and unreliable. Let's start with the science and then move on to the companies to see if we can litigate their dispute. In theory, all of this should work. Polygenic embryo screening is a natural extension of 2 well-validated technologies: genetic testing of embryos and polygenic prediction of traits in adults. So genetic screening of embryos has been done for decades, usually to detect chromosomal abnormalities like Down syndrome or simple gene editing disorders like cystic fibrosis. It's challenging. We've talked about this before. You need to take a very small number of cells, often only 5 to 10, from a tiny protoplacenta that may not have many cells to spare, and extract a readable amount of genetic material from this limited sample. But there are known solutions that mostly work. And so the companies that we're talking about today aren't necessarily doing the fundamental lab equipment development, building the machine, figuring out how to sequence data from the first. It's more about the analysis that happens on top of the results.
And the recommendations.
And the recommendations.
Which is probably, which I would say is the most controversial part of this. Which is
I don't know that any of them are recommending, hey, we think you should we think you should pick this baby. They're more just saying like, we think that according to the data, this baby might
but if
be
you're
taller
giving
than
somebody
this one.
risk factor,
Yeah, but that's not a recommendation. Like if I tell you this car is 700 horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, and this one does 800 horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds, this one's faster in a straight line, this one's faster on the curves, and then like you pick, like I didn't make a recommendation, I just told you the stats, right?
Yeah, but from when you look at these companies from what they're marketing to consumers of why you should care about the service,
Sure.
and then the way that they deliver the information. If they're advertising, we can help you have a smarter, healthier baby, and then they're saying like, hey, we think this direction is going to get you a higher IQ. I don't
think it's a recommendation.
It's not an explicit recommendation, but I think people are trusting the service to try to get them what was marketed to them.
Yeah, people want the data, and they want the data to be accurate because they're going to make a decision based on that. But I mean, here Scott Alexander actually gets into some of the complexity of the actual trade-offs because most traits are polygenic, requiring information about thousands or tens of thousands of genes to predict. These are too complicated to understand fully at current levels of technology, but some studies have chipped away at the problem and gotten to a partial understanding. Often, this looks like being able to predict a few % of the variance in the trait to determine whether someone's genetic risk is slightly higher or lower than average. And so some people might genuinely want to select on a single condition. For example, people with a strong family history of schizophrenia might want to minimize their chance of their children getting the disease. For these people, reducing schizophrenia risk by 58% while keeping everything else constant sounds pretty good. Everyone else probably wants a generically healthy embryo with low risk of all conditions. Exactly how this works depends on the customer's own value. Would they prefer an embryo with lower cancer risk to one that will have fewer heart attacks? Like that's a trade-off that you have to pick. And the exact benefits will depend on how parents make that decision. Genomic prediction and Heresight try to help by providing semi-objective measures of which embryo is overall healthiest according to different conditions, effects on longevity, and patient-rated quality of life. For genomic prediction, that's the embryo health score. This is, that's close to a recommendation. I think you're getting close.
Nucleus's subway campaign is have a healthier baby.
Yeah. The marketing claims are a big piece of this. I think the scientific claims are potentially just as important, but it's both. They're both understanding where the science actually is, both broadly and then also within the companies, and then how it's marketed. Like all of that is important to get like a complete picture of what's going on here. So for Heresight, it's a polygenic longevity index. They don't give exact risk reduction numbers for each disease, saying that it depends too much on a couple's specific family history, but say that most people gain 1 to 4 years of healthy life. When I test it on a set of 20 embryos, the healthiest gets an extra 1.66 years. And so how much would you pay to give your children an extra 1 to 4 years of healthy life? This is no longer a hypothetical question. Here are the costs. Genomic prediction is around $3,250. Orchid is around $12,500. Nucleus is around $9,249. And Heresight, $53,250. That is expensive compared to the rest, 5 times the price. Is it worth it? Well, if you're already doing IVF, the claimed risk reductions are accurate. You value your kid's health as much as your own. You have low time discount rate. You're well off enough that these aren't extraordinary sums of money to you. You're okay using expected utility calculations where a 50% chance of preventing X is half as good as fully preventing X. Then I'll go out on a limb and say, yeah, it's worth it. Consider genomic prediction, which costs $3,500 for 5 embryos and claims to lower absolute risk of type 2 diabetes by 12%. That implies that not getting type 2 diabetes is worth $27,000. Ask anyone dealing with regular insulin injections, let alone limb amputations, whether it would be worth $27,000 to wave a magic wand and not have type 2 diabetes. It's not a hard question. And that's just one of a dozen conditions you can lower the risk for. Other ones, like not getting breast cancer, might be so valuable that it's hard to even attach numbers. So what about IQ? 6 extra IQ points, which is Heresite's estimate with 5 embryos, is about a quarter of the gap between the average person and the average Ivy League student. The benefits of intelligence are hard to quantify, but it's been shown to have probably causal positive effects on income, mortality, and achievement. Probably the income effects alone make up for the cost of the intervention, again, assuming total parent-child altruism and a low discount rate. So if we accept all of these claims and assumptions, the choice seems obvious. It's probably even obvious for governments to pay for all citizens to get these, given how much they'd save on healthcare costs, says Scott Alexander. But in practice, it's complicated. Critics have raised both scientific and ethical objections to polygenic embryo screening. Most significantly, it's been condemned by various bodies, including the Society for Psychiatric Genetics, the European Society of Human Genetics, and the Behavioral Genetics Society. Their statements are not good. They tend towards vague language about how people are more than just their genes, or how no genetic test can be perfect, or how embryo screening is not exactly the same thing as some other form of screening, which has a longer history and more proponents. Although, quote, although in general higher scores mean you are more likely to have a condition, many healthy people will have higher scores. Others might develop the condition even with a low score, says the Society for Psychiatric Genetics, as if they have just blown the lid off of some dastardly conspiracy. Screening embryos for psychiatric conditions may increase stigma surrounding those diseases. They continue, an objection which, taken seriously, could be used to ban every form of medical treatment. Because if you take care of something, you remove them from the population, that might increase the stigma, but we should still treat these. So he says, we will mostly ignore these people and try to imagine the implications of the objections that mildly competent critics might raise, some of which will coincidentally overlap with the content of the non-hypothetical statements. So the big question he wants to answer is scientific objection, the scientific objection around efficacy. Are we sure this works at all? Are we sure this works? So a typical polygenic score is created by collecting thousands or millions of adult genomes, then matching genetic information with surveys about who has the trait/condition of interest. Reputable studies then test these scores on holdout samples, adults who were not used to make the score, to see if they still accurately predict who has the trait/condition. Polygenic embryo selection depends on an assumption that the scores which work in these kinds of retrospective tests will also work prospectively on embryos. This assumption hasn't been formally proven in studies, which would require years or decades to conduct, but seems commonsensical. The strongest challenge to the application of polygenic scores for embryo selection comes from a recent body of research showing that most scores combine causal genetic effects with population stratification and therefore can be expected to lose much of their predictive power when comparing two members of the same family. There is an increasing agreement in the field that unless scores are validated within families, headline results like decreases risk of X by Y% will be large overestimates. When I talked to company representatives, they all said that they took accuracy extremely seriously and had various white papers and journal articles where anyone could double check on their methodology. But I attended an industry conference a few months ago, and the gossip level was comparable to a high school cafeteria.
It says minus the sex rumors, most of the attendees were having their kids via IVF.
Everyone had some story about someone being careless or fudging their numbers. Some of the conflicts broke out into the open on Wednesday when Heresite left stealth and published a white paper and associated blog post. They criticized genomic prediction for reporting between family rather than within family results, and Orchid for smuggling a term for age into their Alzheimer's predictor. Unsurprisingly, this makes it work better. We'll get to their accusations against Nucleus below. Note that this was recent enough that competitors haven't had time to air their own criticisms of Heresite. If this happens, I'll try and keep you updated.
And to be clear, this article is from around 5 months ago.
Yes.
And since that time, Nucleus has been accused of plagiarizing the paper
From
that we
Parasite.
just discussed,
right?
from Parasite.
From Parasite.
Yeah.
And then also accused of stealing IP from genomic
Yeah.
prediction.
So there's, again, a bunch of different accusations. We'll let
Yeah.
Kian
So
talk
yeah,
about
yeah. I mean, the goal here is to just give an opportunity for Cremieux and Kian to answer some questions, try and contextualize it, try and make their case to a broader audience. I've read through as much as I can, but without actually getting in the lab and rolling up my sleeves, I don't think I could come to a firm conclusion here. But I can certainly talk to them on this show and hopefully get some more information that the community can do with what they will. So Scott Alexander concludes this section talking about his strongest opinion of the scientific criticism. He says, authorities on all sides have cited Alex Young as an authority on how polygenic scores can be confounding or misleading. Last week, Alex Young revealed that he had been working with Parasite while it was in stealth mode and endorses their research. 3. LOL. Probably that means Parasite's products are okay. That serves as proof of concept that this technology can work and means other companies' claims are at least plausible. So lots of back and forth. And we will be joined by Cremieux in just a few minutes. I actually need to message him and make sure that he has the information. Is there anything else that you think would be worthwhile to discuss before we hop on? Let's.
Yeah, and I can just go through. I mean, the original accusations came from an account called Sichuan Mala.
Sichuan Mala, yes.
Who wrote an extremely lengthy blog post on a bunch of the issues that they felt they had found with Nucleus. Nucleus ended up firing back and saying that Sichuan Mala was, or sort of implying that Sichuan Mala was funded by a competitor or competitive service, as well as making those allegations with Cremieux.
Yes.
They go into issues around potentially fictitious customer reviews, which we'll ask Kian about, AI-generated blog posts, accusations of intellectual property theft, saying that the Nucleus origin white paper is plagiarized, saying it that has a bunch of errors. Nucleus has responded already to a lot of this stuff.
Well, our first guest of the show is here. Let me tell you about Linear. Meet the system for modern software development, purpose-built tool for planning and building products. We will bring in Cremieux from the Restream waiting room into the TVPN Ultradome and have him set the table for us. Cremieux, how are you doing? Welcome to the stream.
How are we doing? Glad to be here, guys.
Thanks so
Can
much.
you hear me?
Good
Yes,
as always.
looking good. Do you
Wonderful.
want?
By the way, I can go face docs if you want.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We can show his actual video this time, which is great. We've had him. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
Good to see you.
How you doing?
What actually kicked this off for you? Do you know Sichuan Mala separately, independently? Did you know that this was coming? Set the table for us. Like, why did Nucleus come to the top of your mind?
So, can I actually go back to Hereticon,
Please.
with this?
Yeah.
All right. So, for about a year, we've told Nucleus about issues with their products. Can I just actually give a big, I can monologue on this for a minute. I can tell you a lot of the details if you want to go into it.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So one of the early things that really peeved a lot of us who are aware of how this tech works is that Nucleus claimed to provide parents with information about rare variants based on microarray files. Their website's wording is incredibly ambiguous. So the excuse when I raised this to Kian in person was that they were referring to imputing a child's embryo or a child or an embryo's microarray-based data with parental whole genome data. But this is not sufficient for rare variants like they claim it is, and it only works out in very well in narrow, well-behaved cases. It's not a clean substitute for sequencing an embryo or child. The rare variant information they can offer is limited, and their claim is highly misleading because it sounds like they can achieve coverage of de novo rare variants and ultra-rare variants reliably for children and embryos. But they cannot do this because of crossover that happens during recombination inside the haplotype blocks you're using to do the imputations, and because of mutations. They can't even get high confidence coverage of rare variants more generally, which is what their big claim is about in specific wording, with the imputation-based methods they claim to be using. So everything they say has a huge error bar on it, and they shouldn't be advertising it. Basically, it's something incredibly misleading. And to get an idea,
so just to like actually zoom out, like what do you think they are capable of doing?
I think they are capable of microarray sequencing. I think they're capable.
I mean, in terms that you could advertise to a parent, like you could, like if Kian went to a prospective parent, the parent says, "I'm doing IVF." What can you do for me?
Is this category even ready for large scale out of home advertising? Do you think we're...
It absolutely is.
Okay.
The issue is that Nucleus should not be doing it because Nucleus has produced scores that are invalid. They're incredibly invalid. Like, for example, they used an ADHD score that included 12 single nucleotide polymorphisms. They claimed it explained 4% of the variance in ADHD, which means it's a pretty good predictor and you can use it to get some improvements in the margins. But 12 SNPs means that there's just no way. They could explain less than 1% of the variance, and the best current ADHD polygenic score uses more than 1 million SNPs and explains about 1% of the variance. So they just basically lied. They made up these numbers, and Harrisite had to go through and show that, oh, actually a bunch of their numbers are made up.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you know for sure that they're... I mean, like that claim, you know, the state of the art was 1 million for 1%. Now it's 12. Nucleus is claiming 12 for 4%. That seems like a huge exponential, growth in efficacy of that particular test. But just an exponential progress, it is not necessarily evidence of malfeasance, right?
This isn't progress. They've never been able to show that they can use 12 SNPs, and no one can. It's impossible. They don't explain this much variance. It's literally physically impossible. It's not possible in any way. They should never have claimed it. They should never have provided score reports to people based on it, and they did. They provided customers with score reports that have to be fake. Not fake per se, but they have to be incorrect. They have to be wrong. There's no way they could stand up to scrutiny. What I'm saying is that after they made this 12 SNPs to 4% variance claim, people have looked and they've shown the latest ADHD polygenic score, which is more recent than what they've claimed to have on offer, uses more than 1 million SNPs and explains about 1% of the variance. It's just, that's the state of the art. They are claiming to have better than the state of the art with completely implausible parameters. It is impossible.
Okay, so back to the original question, like what do you think they actually could offer, even if they say, hey, you know what, we're not necessarily state of the art. We're partnering with a lot of different labs. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. We're using the tools that are available. What is a reasonable claim that if they made it, you would be like, yeah, that sounds reasonable?
A reasonable claim from Nucleus is that they are pulling polygenic scores from the Polygenic Score Catalog, a publicly available resource that lists a bunch of different polygenic scores from different genome-wide association studies. That would be reasonable.
Yeah.
But that is not why would you go with them then? They have nothing unique to offer. What they have offered that seems to be unique are claims that don't hold up to scrutiny or which are clearly plagiarized from one of their competitors.
Yeah, well, there are plenty of services that are like effectively wrappers around Quest Labs, and I get a better UI and it tells me that my cholesterol is in the range, and yeah, I know it's just looking up the range from the data, but it has a nice UI and a reasonable billing system or whatever, and people pay for that, and they get they make decisions about their diet based on that, and I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong about providing something that's a commodity or not a scientific breakthrough, as long as you're honest about what you're doing and you're not inflating the results.
Yeah. The problem is that they're inflating the results.
Okay.
The problem is that they are effectively making up the results. They've in their latest report, they have claimed to basically match Harrisite. Not claimed to directly. They've copied their very unique citations, which no one else has made. They've copied their method, and copying their method is incredibly weird. You mentioned there that Scott Alexander noted that Alex Young is like seen as a big authority in this space. And it's true. Alex is seen as like the go-to guy. If you want to learn about family-based sampling, trio imputation, if you want to learn about within family validations or imputations or quality control, you ask Alex. That is the thing to do. And they apparently copied Alex Young's quality control pipeline. And it's very unique. So doing this is unusual. It's unheard of. It's not likely to have actually been done. It is like saying that you woke up one day and here's my morning routine. I woke up and today I was John Coogan and I brushed my teeth exactly 3 times each time around. And I went and prayed to my household God. And I did like all sorts of things. And it's incredibly specific in a way that is very unlikely to be real. They've very likely just kind of mimicked exactly what they said. And they said they did it on additional data, but the results came up very close. Which is not likely. We have strong theoretical genetic reasons to expect that if they had this additional data that Harrisite did not, the results would have actually looked different. So they have all these signals that they didn't do the analyses they said they did, and lots of indications that they plagiarized. And when Sichuan Mala called them out, they responded. The response they generated was amateurish. It was kind of embarrassing because they admitted simultaneously to denying they did the plagiarism. They admitted to doing the plagiarism. They admitted they copied things directly from Harrisite. They admitted they used resources that are unusual to use, and they effectively got the data from them. And they did nothing that was really unique. But they did ape everything the competitors.
So copying might be, looked down upon. In tech, people copy stuff all the time. Stories was copied into Instagram from Snapchat. Different machine learning architectures are being copied constantly. Some stuff can be patented. Some stuff can be trade secrets. Are we looking at anything that goes beyond just like, it's kind of bad form to copy? Or is this something that's actually like a problem beyond that?
Yeah, would you be less angry if they copied it perfectly instead of like sort of copied it directionally?
They copied a lot of it perfectly, and this leads to weird results because they should not have done that given the cohorts they used. They used separate data for their validations, so the results should have been different. They copied details that made it apparent that they were not using the data they claimed to, or they were just fudging the results. It has to be one or the other. There's no way they could have gotten the results they did with the data they did and the copying they did. The copying tells us that they lied about something somewhere along the way. There is something fishy here. And we don't know what the exact error is. We just know they have to have made an error because there's no way that the additional data they had access to was identical to all the data their competitors used. It would have delivered different results.
Yeah.
Have you? So I wanted to ask. They released open weight models, the origin models. Part of their pushback against Sichuan Mala's critique is that anybody can just download the models and play around with them. Have you downloaded them?
You have to ask for access, and they do not give out access. We've had multiple people go in and try and ask for access, and they've not received it at all. And one person who asked for more information was told, "Stop contacting us." So no, they are not open at all. They're open in the sense that OpenAI is open. They're not very open.
Okay,
got it.
Shifting gears to the marketing claims. What stuck out to you there is particularly in need of addressing?
They very much need to address the fact that they seem to have fake reviews. So when they started Nucleus Embryo, they launched it in June. They weren't offering any sort of embryo screening services beforehand, and if they were, then it would have been how they have to specify what lab they use for all this stuff. There's a lot of details that should go into this that they can't actually specify because they didn't do that. So they claim to have had customers that have already been served by this. Well, as everybody knows, it takes about 9 months to serve a customer in this at minimum. And it has not been 9 months since June.
Make a baby in 1 month. It takes 9 months.
So I'd love to see these 3-month-old babies that came out perfectly and were, made their customers so happy. But I don't think they exist. I think they're not real. So why do they have these reviews? I don't know. And the reviews are also, they have a lot of fake elements. There are some that are clearly fake. So they use stock images in these reviews to show their customers they call them verified.
Which, to be clear, you can imagine a scenario where they use stock imagery and fake names, and they put an asterisk and say, due to HIPAA compliance reasons, we're not just publicly displaying, the names of any of our clients. But
there's no issue revealing this stuff, and other companies do actually reveal their real customers. So Orchid has revealed real customers. I've been introduced I've met Harrisite customers.
Oh
like,
yeah, didn't Jason Carman do a whole video with Noor in the first orchid baby, and has been like basically making a documentary about that person's journey? Like, there's no like
yeah.
And I feel like I see in drug commercials all the time, it'll be like, this is a real customer who loves this hair loss meds. And they're like, yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, but
and like there's
it
regulations
seems
around
much
that,
harder
like,
to get. It's probably much harder to get somebody to opt into that than just opt into generally providing.
Sure.
But
sure.
clearly,
Okay.
clearly it's possible. I guess
is that legit, you think?
No, they still could not have had the babies in time. It doesn't fit with the time. The chronology doesn't work here. These customer reviews are not really physically possible, and I'd like to see an explanation from them because it doesn't make any real sense to me. They could be, I don't know, making some sort of representative review that they've maybe hedged in some fine print on some page somewhere, but I haven't seen it, and their entire site has been archived now. Okay. So if that page exists, they'll have to show it to us on the archive.
One thing Jordy and I were debating was this big question of like, is Nucleus making a recommendation or not? I don't know if this is relevant, but I would love your take on this. This idea of like, I see an ad that just says like height is 80% DNA based or genetically heritable, and then you go into the dashboard and it just says here's the predicted height and here's the predicted IQ, and then you make the decision. And it's not necessarily that they're recommending one or the other. It's more of a diagnostic, and you can do with that information what you want. Does that absolve them of some sort of responsibility there?
No, it doesn't. So if you still provide wildly inaccurate scores, then it doesn't matter what you're recommending. You are effectively just recommending something that doesn't matter. I mean, you are giving them incorrect recommendations. You have to give some range of uncertainty within the best of your ability. You have to give them something that is to the greatest extent knowable, reliable. And they can't have done that. They've provided scores that they must know are incorrect. You can't explain 4% of the variance with 12 SNPs. It's not really feasible. It's there's no possibility of it, really. There's also no possibility of getting high confidence coverage on rare variants to make from the imputation methods they've described. So they can't make parents certain about this stuff. Like, they're saying lots of things that are that would require them to basically advance the science 20 years. They would have to be leaders in innovations here. And I just kind of doubt it. The people who are actually leading on the innovations here are Harrisite. Orchid is doing so as well. They're doing a lot of Orchid's whole genome sequencing of embryos is the only one in the industry available to do this. And Harrisite's innovation is that they made this stuff low cost for what they have admitted is a reduction in quality if you get PGTA-based imputation. Now, but another thing I do want to mention, though, is that Nucleus might, and I'm still looking into this. I'm collecting some patient reports. I found one from my friend Dylan. She got a report from Nucleus, and she got one from Invitae. It was a whole genome sequencing thing done. And Nucleus, and I did see the report, Nucleus said she had a Mendelian disorder, a monogenic disorder caused by one gene, and Invitae said she didn't have it. Okay, this is weird. So what's the inconsistency? We don't really know. Nucleus recently changed this result. Now, per the law, you have to notify your customers if you change their sequencing results. This is a CLIA regulation. The CMS regulates this, and that is a potentially major issue that they might be out of compliance with. And I understand that startups are often out of compliance, and a lot of them fake it till they make it in terms of following the letter of the law. But I'm of the opinion that they really shouldn't, especially because this is serious tech with major implications for people, their families, and I mean, all future generations of their families. This is, as I think Jordy called it, bloodline optimization. And we have these rules in place for a reason. You need to show you're abiding by them. But they
how much do the other players in the category, how much are they worried about Nucleus just kind of setting back the entire category?
So I have gotten, it's on video, and because Kian tweeted about being in it, I'm allowed to say that we were at a private conference, and I did lead a panel on this topic where Kian was one of the panelists, and the heads of some other embryo selection companies were also on the panel as well. And I will say that everyone was worried. Everyone was worried about one of the major missteps that actually has already been addressed by another one of the companies, and the series of major missteps made by Nucleus that they have failed to address. I warned Kian about this stuff many months ago. I've warned him about problems for more than a year now, and he has simply not addressed them. They're still there on the website. You can go find them. I've archived these pages a few times to see, are they getting to them? Are they getting to them? The answer is No. They are still making claims that are either not possible with the current tech, might be possible in 20 years, or just don't seem consistent with the evidence that they provided to their customers.
Okay, last question, and then we're going to hop on with Kian. I'm a big believer in redemption arcs. You're obviously unhappy with Nucleus's behavior in the industry. What does redemption look like? What would Kian have to do or show you to get back in the good graces of the industry, in your good graces?
So the whole industry knows that Kian has been a problem for a while. And a lot of people have tried to give him a redemption arc already. They have tried to come to him. They have given him clear advice on what he needs to do. They have told him, you need to stop making X, Y, Z different claims. They have told him, you need to offer scores that are vetted. You need to be open about your vetting. You need to be open about your sources. You need to qualify everything like the other companies do, but you haven't. He has been told this for a long time. I sent you some pictures earlier today. You can see the panel we're on, where clearly, this has been a thing that's come up a lot. And we wanted to give him the arc already, but it came to this. It came to a person going online, a blogger, deciding, hey, I'm going to look into this after reading the various blog posts and saying, well, shoot. So to make up for it, I think they would need to be incredibly open, and they need to apologize, and they need to admit to what they did wrong, and they need to say that they were out of compliance with CLIA rules and regulations, and they need to say, hey, we might have misstepped here or there. We didn't know we were doing this or whatever. Whatever it takes to be accurate. Document everything. Tell us everything you've done. Tell us all of the missteps. Don't exaggerate. Do not lie. Just be upfront with everyone and submit yourself to regulation. Not in the sense that you have to go and tell the regulator you want to implement whatever new rules and regs, but submit yourself to openness. Be really open. Stop this whole thing about not telling us your methods, which they've done. And Sichuan Mala has documented that in the latest blog post. And give us your data. Give your data out. Stop saying it's going to be available upon request.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if your competitors have it. Offer better pricing or something. Compete on some other margin, because we shouldn't have to compete on trusting you. And I say we, I don't have a company in this space, but everyone should be trusted. All the companies in this space need to shape up a little bit, and they need to be a little more open. And Kian needs to do that the most.
Thank you for coming on the show and breaking it down for us. We appreciate you taking the time and walking through all of that. Have a great rest of your day. Who knows? You might be on the show very soon as this debate continues.
Cheers.
So we really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Talk soon.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Before we bring in Kian, let me tell you about Fall. Build and deploy AI video and image models trusted by millions to power generative media at scale. And we have Kian from Nucleus in the Restream waiting room. Let's bring him in to the TBP and Ultradome. Kian, good to see you. Wish it was less dramatic circumstances, but it makes for good TV. And we're happy that you're here and we can chat about this. And I'd love to just give you the floor. I'm sure you saw, some of the early segments. Where do you think it's important to start? Where do you think it's most important to set the record straight as a first point? And then I'm sure we'll have a bunch of questions.
Well, I didn't see what Cremieux said. I was busy helping a patient. But I think the key thing to remember is that Cremieux and I, we are definitely aligned on doing great science. At the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We want to serve the patient. We want to do amazing science. I think what we're not aligned on is Cremieux basically for several months has not disclosed that he's been affiliated with a competitor. And, that wouldn't be so much of a problem unless they're basically concerting together. And so that's on the Crémieux side of things, but honestly, that's the less important thing to me.
Yes, I agree. I think that's less important. Yeah. I've seen him post positively about your competitors. I've not seen any proof that he's actually being paid or has equity in that competitor. But to me, it almost doesn't matter. It could every single post from him and Sichuan Mala could literally be from Nor at Orchid or someone at one of your competitors. You still need to address it, right?
100%.
Okay, cool.
And so first and foremost, I'm going to say that our science is completely public and it's been completely public. So one thing that it's really important to say is that anyone, and by the way, we've at this point have shared our models with over 15 different entities, which includes, by the way, people affiliated with our competitors, several of them. That means
just to be clear, Crémieux said that a number of people that he's aware of have requested access to the models and not been given access and been told to stop reaching out. And so I do think I don't know
Completely,
who's
utterly inaccurate and false. There is not one person who has filled in the nucleus origin type form, which is a type form, fill in a type form, that has not gotten access to our model weights.
Okay.
And by the way, that includes people affiliated with the competitor.
Okay.
And so I think what's really important here is the science is public. The message to the community is go and test it. In fact, our science is public. The competitors is not. So what I would propose is they should make their science public, and let's have a third party independently evaluate the rigor, the quality of the science, and let's do it for everyone to see. Instead of he said, she said, they tit for the tat, put the science out there.
Yeah.
Have a third party independently evaluate them. That is my message to our competitor. We are happy to stand behind our science, and we know that it's the highest quality science that can exist today. But by the way, John, that's not even the point either.
Please.
You know what the point actually is?
What is?
The point is about the patient. It's about having the empathy with the patient so they can know when they do embryonic selection, they can feel comfortable and confident in the results.
Yeah.
And this Twitter back and forth, this tit for tat, this person's race changed on the Nucleus landing page, it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. Well, and so that's my message.
Speaking of the patients on the landing pages, what about the chronology here? This idea that
the time.
that there's a review of a baby with 3 months old, takes 9 months to work with a baby, should have happened a year ago. Was the service available a year ago? How do you square that particular allegation that the timing of the review just doesn't line up with what must have happened in the real world had they used your service?
So there were several claims about the reviews. Let me address each.
Please.
First and foremost, obviously as a HIPAA covered entity, we cannot disclose patient name, much less their picture. Okay. If a patient chooses to, they can publicly endorse the company and they can put their name in their picture. Otherwise, a patient can submit an anonymous review, and then we'll put that according on the landing page.
Okay.
And so maybe perhaps the people on the Twitter timeline, maybe they never run a company that involves any protections to the patients. Maybe they don't know about this. Maybe in like the broader tech community, it's like unfamiliar. If you run a software company, it wouldn't make sense necessarily to not disclose the patient name. And I'm going to say to John, this is really important.
Yeah. Do you think you have to disclose the fact that you're using an AI generated image? Is that best practice or is that legally required?
What I think we should do, though, is now that the community gave us this feedback, is we should update it and make it more clear. Hey, this is clearly not a real picture, and this is also not a real name. That's reasonable. Okay? Now, fraud, this, that. Guys, really? Come on. Okay, we'll update it. We'll make sure that the picture and also the names are more clear. But again, we're a HIPAA-covered entity. You can imagine when you launch an embryo product specifically, people do not want their name to be affiliated with it. I mean, you have anon accounts that don't want their names affiliated with these things. Imagine a patient that actually underwent Nucleus's services. So now regarding the timeline thing, that's the second thing you mentioned. I want to directly address that as well. Obviously, a company like Nucleus can start providing services to patients earlier than we publicly launch a product. Moreover, you would imagine the services that you provide to patients would be the ones that actually the beta service that you provide to patients would be the ones that you'd have reviews for. Obviously, because they do the services prior to the company actually launching the services publicly. So that's it. That's the answer.
So you were using the service before, maybe a year ago or something. Then you announced the service, and that's why the
we had a request, John, to do embryo analyses. Probably 3 years ago. I would wager that that actually was probably one of the first times before any of these companies to actually provide this sort of services. So we didn't think about this for a long time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it makes sense. It's a very logical place to go. It's also a very competitive industry. There's a bunch of reasons why you'd want to play in that space. What about the delta or the perceived gap between the marketing claims, what's on the billboard, what's in the New York subway? I'm seeing 50% IQ, 80% height. They feel like bold claims. What's actually possible? What can customers actually get from Nucleus today? What could they get a year ago when you were beta testing the product? I want to interrogate the gap there.
So to be clear, there is no gap.
Great.
Have a healthier baby. Have a taller baby. Have a smarter baby. IQ is 50% genetic. Height is 80% genetic. These are just facts of the matter. The latter two are heritability estimates. They are what they are.
Yeah.
The former two are basically describing what you can do with Nucleus.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting here is actually a broader commentary. Nucleus is bringing the science mainstream. We are taking it out of the little echelons of the rationalist community, the little echelons of the scholars going back and forth at it, out of the Twitter alleyway, and we're bringing it to the actual people who will benefit and use these services. I cannot tell you when you actually talk to a patient, not somebody on tech Twitter, when you talk to a patient, they have no idea this technology exists.
Yeah.
And the first time they're discovering it is when they go and they actually see the campaign in the subway.
Yep.
And now I think it's personally good for the entire industry, right? Where you actually bring broader awareness. It lifts everybody, us, our competitors, and makes this actually more and more into a space. It's very early. My advice to our competitors is focus on serving your patients. Because at the end of the day, the market's huge, and this market is extremely in its infancy.
And I think they would push back and say the industry can't afford to be sloppy. And I think that
I agree.
I think it's a fair allegation that some of the ways that Nucleus materials have been presented have been sloppy. I guess one question I have is,
Gordy, what are you specifically talking about? What has been sloppy?
Specifically the reviews are sloppy. Like, I totally
think
understand.
specifically using an AI image or using a stock image without making it clear that this is anonymized because of HIPAA. If it just said if it said at the bottom and there's little asterisks and said anonymized because of HIPAA, I think everyone would be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like they made a choice, and I think that's like the first thing that I would count as like sloppy.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair.
Okay.
And we're gonna update that. Do you think that that's proportional to the temperature on Twitter?
Oh,
I think this is the most politically charged category in technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can't afford to, basically the industry as a whole, I don't think can afford to make a lot of mistakes, right? These are people.
I completely agree.
This is gonna involve the health of the children of all the industry's, clients.
Yeah.
There were allegations too that you guys were sort of had updated a test result on the fly. I have no idea if this is true, but I saw the claim going around. Somebody had gotten a certain test result, and then it had been updated 2 weeks later.
Yeah, what's going on there?
What's happening?
That's super interesting.
Nucleus, remember guys, unlike these other players, we've served thousands of patients.
Sure.
Anyone can go on our website right now and use our product. They can see our services, right? I mean, I think it's really funny what's flying around when someone can just go and buy a DNA kit and see the product for themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea that, we updated a model, we've updated models for the last several years. I mean, results will change. We make that very clear. And by the way, any embryo selection company, Nucleus is full stack. We do adult DNA testing analysis. We also do the embryo, and we also do a full end-to-end IVF experience. We're kind of multi-product. But these models will evolve. One point here, which is important, John, to mention. People have a very good intuition when it comes to AI that ChatGPT is going to be better next week. Grok's going to be better 2 months from now. The same expectation has to be communicated to the genetic optimization industry. The main limitation for building polygenic predictors is data. It's a data problem. And so what's going to happen is all the different polygenic predictors are going to be approximately equivalent, okay, until we get more and more data, or people get more and more access to data. That is the fundamental bottleneck of the industry. In other words, similar to actually the AI situation, all the value is going to shift downstream to the application layer. The reason why people are so upset is because Nucleus has excellent science, rigorous science, and
here actually being let the models in everyone's hands, because that seems to be a fundamental disagreement here. You're saying that you'll give them the model
and wasn't filled in my nucleus, and we have to do. And the last thing I think, which is really important, is sometimes, on Twitter, this one personally hurt me. For 6 years, I've done this years trying to get that right. When you see the embryo on your smartphone, it's easy to look at that and just write it off, right? I encourage everyone. And also, honestly, I think I'd be also more mindful. I mean, clearly, inadvertently, I've pissed some people off. And that's understandable. That feedback's
the time to hop on and set the record straight, give your side of the story, and explain what you think folks are getting wrong on the
they just spammed real life. That way, right?
Totally.
They spammed the physical world.
And it was getting worse and worse. They were spamming Los Angeles. And then I live in a suburb of Los Angeles, Pasadena. And then one day I'm driving around my hometown, which is very quaint and sort of out of the loop. It's not the San Francisco hubbub. It's not Teapot. It's Pasadena. It's a very chill suburb. And I see a friend.com ad billboard, and I'm like, I can't believe you followed me here. It's following me everywhere. It follows me on the internet, follows me to LA, follows me to